Okay, round two for today. We did like 30, 40 minutes or an hour earlier. We've got time for a bit more, maybe another hour or so. So yeah, let's see what we've got today. We're notifying viewers that you're live. Wicked! TikTok is finally helping. Amazingly, I haven't had any strikes since I've stopped using a background. Not one. Okay, let's see. If you would like to debate, get yourself in the queue now, and we will bring you straight up as soon as we can and answer your questions, take your discussion, your curiosity, your opinion. 18, tried extinction. Don't know what you mean by that. So look, what this is about, it's about the pro-extinction movement. We have to gather people together who agree with suffering being unacceptable, right? The whole point of the pro-extinction movement is about the fact that extreme suffering is unacceptable. So that is kind of the main difference, I guess, really, right? In a lot of ways. So for most people, extreme suffering is acceptable. You know, the thing is, right, is that when you first think about this and what I'm saying, most people would be like, what? No, of course extreme suffering isn't acceptable. Well, actually, you do support extreme suffering, right? If you support life existing, if you disagree with life not existing, and you think that life should exist in unsafe conditions, then yeah, you support extreme suffering. You're actually, you accept it. You're okay with it. It's not a problem for you. It's worth it, basically. So yeah, for some people, having life exist and having people get to watch Netflix, that's worth children being, raped to death and raped over and over again violently, right? Some people think it's worth it. Same for animals being tortured violently over and over again. An entire life of pure suffering, pure extreme pain, forcing someone into that and to, suffer for an entire life, begging for death, wishing they'd never been forced into this cruel world, forced to suffer. Some people think that's okay and that it's worth it, right? That it doesn't really matter if pedophiles are raping children and babies and things. They think it's worth it, basically, because we get to watch Netflix, we get to have fun. So yeah, it's worth it. Let the babies get raped, let the animals get tortured. It's not a problem. But unfortunately, it is a problem, right? And most people, again, they accept and support extreme suffering, right? Extreme cruelty. They totally accept it, right? If you say, should we get rid of it? They'll say no. So you can say no, I don't support extreme suffering. But you're literally saying we shouldn't get rid of it. So yeah, you do. You absolutely do. Okay, Seattle, let's get you up. How you doing?
Hey, good friend.
A lot going on right now. There's
Have
a
you ever
million different
considered
conversations
hold
about
on.
different.
Have I ever
TikTok?
considered?
Have you ever considered making videos, either books on tape of you have a very soothing voice, by the way, where you're either describing future extinction or like the transition into extinction, and you're just very calmly, like peacefully describing it as like things go black and things like, I think that would be, I would listen to that. Put me to sleep. And
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be doing activism to grow the movement. But look, if you like my voice, then you can listen to all of my live streams on YouTube, right? So if you search Universal Extinction, I have 92 episodes, right? Nearly 100 episodes of my live streams on TikTok. So you can go and watch all of them at your leisure.
But then I would hear like the people arguing and debating. I just want to hear like a very calm explanation of extinction. So like when we go, this is for all the people who support your movement.
Okay.
When they're going to bed at night, they can get that in their subconscious. They can fall asleep to it and they can really like feel the energy of the movement.
We do have a podcast where you can listen to just the audio on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everywhere else. But the only catch is that it's both me and Steve.
Okay, that's fine. I think I would check that out.
Yeah, search Pro Extinction Podcast on, again, any major platform for podcasts, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. It'll come straight up.
All right. Well, thank you, James. Good luck.
All right, thank you, Seattle. Okay, we've got Raven in the queue. When did you start supporting total extinction and why? I started June last year when the movement invited me to be an activist, explained it to me, and I said, great, how can I help? So I'd never really heard of it or didn't know anything about it before. It was only when they contacted me and explained it, I was like, yeah, great, end all suffering. I couldn't agree more, where do I start? James, no offense to Steve, but I think you're nicer to listen to. Yeah, that's generally true. Have you explored Buddhism? No, Buddhism is not a serious thing. It doesn't actually help anyone. Buddhism is a bit of you're deluding yourself if you think it actually helps, right? And, people that talk about Buddhism or suffering is good for you, they are completely ignoring extreme suffering, right? So, a lot of people see this stream and see me supporting extinction and they think, oh, this guy must be depressed. You should try Buddhism. But no, it's not about me. It's about everyone else who is suffering. So Buddhism doesn't help animals, doesn't help babies, doesn't help children, doesn't actually help anyone. And even Buddhists themselves, they'll still suffer if you torture them, right? Buddhism doesn't suddenly make them safe from suffering. So it does nothing, basically. Total extinction for every species? Yeah, every single last one, and total prevention of there being any more species ever again. So extinctionism is not just about removing life, it's about preventing life. Okay, it's about doing the best extinction possible, not rushing it, not doing the worst one, but doing the maximum extinction possible. So that means the most vast and thorough possible, and we have to scientifically determine what that is. So, we think about it this way, right? If we were selfish and if we discriminated against other species, then we could just do human extinction, and we could just say, you know what? Who cares about animals? Who cares if there's other human life that develops in the future? Who cares? Let them suffer. But that would be selfish, that would be short-sighted, that would be discriminatory, it would be unfair, and it would essentially cause and allow suffering. So if you rush extinction, or if you do a half job, or you only do, one species, then you're not doing a very good job, you're not doing a very fair job, right? We're the only ones that can do extinction, so we have to do the best extinction possible for the sake of the animals, any life out there that would suffer unless we do it. So yeah, again, we could rush the extinction, but that only benefits us, right? Selfishly. So to do the best extinction, that benefits as much life as possible. So that's what we need to be working towards, the most fair extinction possible, right? Not rushing it, not leaving it up to individuals, but considering, that we have trillions of years of suffering to prevent, we have to do the job properly. We have to do the most vast and thorough extinction possible, and we have to push science and technology to their absolute limits, to the ceiling, in order to do the best extinction possible, right? So we're not going to do it with today's technology. We're going to improve technology. We've had the internet for 30 years. Imagine the wonders we could have 1,000 years from now, okay? We would be able to do a much better, more thorough extinction. We just have to keep going to work towards the best one possible. And so we don't rush it and say, is this good enough now? We say, it has to qualify as doing the best we can, right? Okay, we've got NVM coming up next. Bringing them up onto the stage. Hello.
Hello, James. I think I've spoken to you before.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so about the whole extinction thing, what about those who want to live and if this is gonna go on, would you say you foresee this happening in let's say the next 200 years, or do you think beyond that or before?
We don't know when it's going to happen, but regarding those who want to live, they're not really aware of the danger of suffering that they're in. So we can't let them just blindly go into that danger. And if we do let them, then many of them will end up suffering so badly that they regret it, right? Because they're not able to actually make that decision properly for themselves. In the same way that children cannot be trusted to make decisions for their own safety, most humans can't either.
Mm. So in terms of like, how do you plan to gain more people?
Yeah, by doing activism to grow the movement. So that's one way. We're also genetically growing the movement with reproduction, donating sperm. For example, one activist, if they donate lots of sperm, they could have hundreds or thousands of children who 20 years from now, that could be hundreds of new activists. So that's another great way to grow the movement. We're also doing it psychologically, scientifically, medically. We're covering every basis, basically.
All right. Right, that's all from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Never mind. Moving on. Let's see. Raven still thinks that Buddhism helps animals, but it doesn't. And hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. So my question is, like, how do you plan to carry out your plan? Like, how do you plan to do the total extinction?
Yeah, so we're just getting as many people together to help with the mission first, and then that's when we'll start actually planning it. But it's pretty basic, pretty simple. We have to get enough people to do a revolution, take over the world, start running it ethically, start with animal extinction, and researching, beginning the research for the most fast and thorough extinction possible.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks for coming up. See, moving on, we've got the Big Zagrino.
Yo, do you
How are you
realize I'm doing good? Do you realize this is never gonna happen, right? Like, it's never gonna happen. Like,
Well, you never
genuinely,
know.
you're wasting your time.
Well, you never know. And this is the only right thing. So, it could take 1,000 years, right? And there's no way that you can predict the future. So, even if it seems difficult for it to happen, we still have to work towards the right thing, no matter how difficult it is. Hello, how you
Good
doing?
evening. I'm
Yeah.
fine. How about you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Can I ask you why don't you care about that?
Say again?
What you are suffering from? What are you suffering from?
From? Yeah, so you've made the mistake of thinking that this is about me, right? But this is about all life, right? So this is about total extinction for animals, humans, everything, because that's the only right thing to do. So it's not just about me.
But you're living now. What are you talking about then? You are a living person.
Yeah, so we have to help animals first with extinction, right? They can't do it for themselves. So, we can do that for ourselves, but animals can't, children can't, right? So we have to do total extinction for those that can't do it for themselves.
This is unachievable. You can do this.
Well, you
can.
never know. You never know. Like, that's just, no logic detected, right? That's just your opinion. Yeah, I doubt it. Okay, well, who cares? Hello, how you doing?
Hi, I was wondering how come you want all the animals to go extinct as well? Like, I understand the human part, like if we destroyed all human-made things and mostly people and just let nature and animals thrive without us. How come all of it
Well,
has to
animals
go?
suffer as well, so that wouldn't be fair.
Yeah, is it not mostly because of the things that we've caused though?
No. So most animals suffering happens in nature, starving to death, being eaten alive by other animals. Over 99% of animal suffering is nothing to do with humans.
Okay, thank you. That was all I wanted to ask.
All right, thanks for coming up. But yeah, I mean, there's, think of a human who would have been better off not being born, right? Terrible life for that person, where they definitely would have been better off not being forced to suffer through it. There's lots of animals going through that as well. right? And they can't do their own extinction. Any updates on the merch? Yeah, a little bit. I've been looking into one website, Ink Threadable. Oh, hello, how you doing?
Yo, listen.
Yeah, do you have any questions?
Yo, what do you think about the animals that already went extinct and people are trying to bring them back? What do you think about that?
Well, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, but I guess it does show that, you know, people are treating animals like objects, right? You can just bring them to life for fun, basically.
All right, fair enough. But like, what's the point of changing something that is already set in place? Like, life in general is already like meant to exist how it exists now. So like, what's the point of changing that?
Well,
It's not really in our
how do you
control.
know it's... Who told you it's meant to exist like this?
I mean, that's just us trying to play God, even though
What do you
God's
mean?
not real, right? But like at the same time, we're just changing something that already has been existing for billions of years, just
Yeah,
because
but
we can.
we're
Doesn't
doing
mean
that
we really
anyway.
have
We're
to.
doing that with loads of stuff, right? You know, we've started making technology, right? You against that as well? Do you think we should be just in the rivers and in the fields because that's the way it's always been?
To be honest, yeah.
Right. So no medicine, right? No laws, no shelter. That sounds great.
Yeah, it is great.
Okay. Well. Why aren't you living in the forest right now?
Because I have no choice.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you do. You could just go and walk into the forest, right? Unless you're in prison or something. Yeah, no choice. Yeah, right. Don't believe that for a second. Okay, the queue is empty if anybody else wants to join. And yeah, I'm still looking into more merch, basically. I'm thinking like maybe like a black t-shirt that I can wear on stream and say like Pro Extinction or something, and then the back has more information. So we at least want a hoodie, a t-shirt, and a mug for Pro Extinction. Still working on it though. Yeah, still working on it. James, maybe we do alien extinction first, as we may need animals for resources meanwhile. Yeah, I mean that's another strong possibility as well. So universe-wide extinction has more victims, more sufferers. So technically, it could be more efficient to just allow most of the animals suffering on the planet, because instead of diverting resources away from, you know, universe-wide extinction to animals, right? Maybe we should divert it all to the universe. That does make a lot of sense. But at the same time, I think that we'll be able, this is just my theory, right? This is just speculation. But I think that we'll be able to focus on universe-wide extinction and still have a little bit left over, some resources left over to start doing animal extinction on Earth, right? You know, but I could be wrong, right? Maybe the decision will be, you know, forget the animals on Earth, just forget them. Either way, the decision will be done as ethically as possible and as logically as possible, right? So we have to trust in that. And, you know, people are going to doubt it. People are going to, you know, imagine that the pro-extinction movement takes over the world tomorrow, right? Everyone's going to be hating against every decision. They're going to be protesting against every decision, even if they're all perfectly correct. So that's probably going to happen. And people are just going to have to get over it, basically. And, you know, realize that if you want to be involved in these decisions, then you have to join the movement and, you know, present those arguments properly. We're not just going to take some random comments off of YouTube or TikTok. What the hell is this? Somebody's asking. Oh, well, this is about the pro-extinction movement. We are gathering activists from around the world who are agreeing to help carry out total extinction. So yeah, we are going to put all of the animals to sleep. We're going to put all of the humans to sleep. And we're working towards a world with no life and no possibility of life. So it's quite, you know, it's relatively easy to just get rid of all of the life. The more challenging part is preventing life from ever coming back and doing that for as much of the world as you can, beyond Earth potentially as well. Do you actually think that you'll be successful? Yes. The need for safety is never going away, right? So extinction is the only way to provide safety for life. It's physically impossible to provide a guarantee of safety without extinction. And I challenge you to suggest a way, right? And if you do have a way, then we'd be happy to listen to it. But there is no other way, right? It's physically impossible to provide a guarantee of safety for life without extinction. And so the need will always exist, right? There's always going to be victims, sufferers who are being tortured, who are being forced into a terrible life. So, if that stops happening, well, even if it somehow stops happening, we still have to do extinction so that it never happens again, right? So extinctionism is about the maximum prevention of suffering, the maximum safety, right? And essentially, again, as I always say, it gets very easy to think about all of this if you just think of the universe that we're in as hell, okay? So stop seeing it as a good thing. Just realize that we're in hell, right? And we'd have to shut it down. So that's the only thing that matters, right? You're in hell, surrounded by people being tortured, right? The solution is not to, find a way to have a better life, right? That doesn't help those who are being tortured, okay? So the solution is to make suffering impossible. The solution is not to make a better life. The solution is to make no life, because you can't make life better to the point where it's impossible to suffer terribly and to have a bad life where you'd have been better off not being born, right? It's physically impossible to guarantee for every single life form 100% certainty of safety and a good life. So that's physically impossible. And therefore, life existing is unfair. And people really struggle with this concept, but yet life shouldn't exist. We are effectively in hell, okay, where most life is suffering terribly through a life of extreme suffering where they would be better off not being born, right? Most animals are eaten alive as babies, and they are the majority population. So, life is not a good thing. And the majority of the population on this planet would absolutely be better off being prevented from being born. Absolutely, 100%. So, life has never been a good thing. Life has always been the worst thing possible. And again, we are effectively in hell. Okay, I'm an atheist, but we can describe the world as basically being hell, because most life here is being tortured horrifically. Most animals are eaten alive as babies, right? You wouldn't want to experience that. Nobody should be forced to experience that. Why should anyone be forced to be eaten alive as a baby? Why should anyone be forced into a life of depression? Why should anyone be forced to commit suicide, right? This is the ultimate harm, okay? It's not a good thing. And most people think that there's some sort of magical balance that makes the happy lives somehow magically balances with the terrible lives. It's like all of the extreme suffering and then a few happy people. Somehow people think, oh, wow, look at how convenient. There's a magical balance. So you're saying that the happiness balances perfectly with all of the cruelty. Oh, so we don't have to end all of the cruelty then. Oh, great. We can just forget about all of the cruelty and extreme suffering. Oh, it balances with the happiness, right? So no, it doesn't balance, right? It's like a slave owner trying to tell you, what about all the money we make from the slaves though, right? Think about all of my happiness from all of the money that all of those slaves are making. So, well, what about all of the happiness that, they're suffering? It's the same thing, right? Slavery is the same thing, right? Having life exist where some get tortured horrifically and some are happy, it's actually worse than slavery, right? It's obviously worse than slavery. Slavery is not as bad as the ultimate harm itself, which is a life of extreme hell. So there are lives that have been lived which have been worse than any life lived by a slave. And you could say that about pretty much everything, right? There are animals who have lived worse lives than humans. There are humans that have, and vice versa. All right, let's bring some people on. We've got a few people in the queue. Let's get some debates going. Hello.
Hey,
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Good. What's your first question?
So my first question would be, if you are trying to get rid of people, then wouldn't you be leading to more suffering? Because, for example, if I eliminate your mom, then I will leave you suffering until I eliminate you.
Yeah, no, so you're not considering that we have to prevent billions of years of suffering, right? So that's what extinction will do. It makes suffering impossible. So you're not going to cause more suffering by making suffering impossible, right?
So how do you plan to achieve extinction then?
We're growing the movement until we have enough people to take over the world, start running it ethically, which needs to happen anyway, and then start with animal extinction and start researching the most vast and thorough extinction possible.
Assuming now you have control over the world, you're the supreme leader, yeah? And you have control of everything that should be happening. So how would you make sure that there is that extinction? And if your premise is trying to eliminate suffering, so how would you do that and make others not suffer in the process?
Well, yeah, extinction doesn't really cause suffering, right? It's life that causes suffering. So you can't really cause much suffering with extinction anyway, right? And it's basically impossible to cause more suffering with extinction than life itself causes, right? Animals are being eaten alive. You can't really do much worse than that to them, right? And so euthanasia and extinction is going to help them. It's going to give them safety from a bad life and safety from a much worse death as well. So extinction doesn't really cause more suffering. It actually just ends suffering once and for all.
So it's instant extinction, not gradual.
No, it could be both, right? We don't know which one yet.
So my question is, if it is gradual, then if, for example, we are taking demographic by demographic, let's say we establish that Africa suffers the most among the human race. And then we start by wiping off Africans. But then the Africans have relatives here. And by eliminating them,
it doesn't matter. A little bit of crying, right, is nothing. Okay, a little bit of boo 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 hoo. Okay, that's not extreme suffering. Okay, so you're literally saying we should allow billions of years of torture, murder, genocide, because some people might get a little bit upset. Right? That doesn't make sense.
It's a form of suffering. What I'm saying is, it's still a form of suffering.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Suffering.
It doesn't matter.
But we are causing more suffering with the goal of ending suffering.
So a few tears is more suffering than billions of years of genocide, torture, people being eaten alive. Do you see how that's insane? Like, hello, what's wrong with you?
Ending suffering is not the main goal. It is ending the suffering that we are considering more suffering than the others.
No, it's about ending as much suffering as we can.
What if we produce more suffering than ending the suffering?
That doesn't seem even remotely possible, right? How can you possibly cause more suffering with putting people to sleep instead of allowing billions of years of war, murder, abuse, genocide, right? You're not making any sense.
So it's because you don't have a model. Like, I'm not trying to debate. I'm just trying to understand. How will you eliminate a set of people and lead others not to suffer? Because if we say men first, then by that some chemicals and some things will lead to other suffering.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they suffer. It's still less suffering than it prevents.
But you're still instilling suffering.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that doctors should be banned from putting injections into people with medicine because it causes a little bit of suffering?
That's
you do, don't you? You do. You think that injecting medicine into people should be banned in case it makes them suffer a little bit, right?
But I'm not against suffering. That's
okay.
Point.
Well, then you're done. Get out of here. What's the point of talking to you? What a crazy person, right? What a completely insane individual. Criminally insane, basically. Mina, hello. How you doing? Hello. Hello. Echo, 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 echo. No, she's AFK. She's AFK. She's probably fallen asleep, dreaming about me or something. Anna, hello, how you doing?
Oh, hi.
Yeah, hello.
Sorry. I didn't know I was on. Sorry, this is my first time doing this, so I'm a little bit nervous. Um, Hi, I'm happy to hear you live. I really like your movement. I have a lot of questions, of course. My question is, I typed it once regarding, I don't know if you believe like people who are like real power in this world, they do really need a working class slaves and making business out of our health and all of that. So even if like, let's say 99% of the world is on board with this, that people wouldn't allow this to happen. And they do have a lot of control, James.
Yeah. Yeah, so we just have to find a way to solve that problem, basically. So potentially we'll do a revolution, or we'll take over using artificial intelligence, or we'll try and outbreed the pro-lifers. So we're looking into lots of different ways. We're looking into psychologically solving the problem, genetically solving the problem, and revolutionarily solving the problem. We're looking into every solution, essentially. But
Could you elaborate a little bit on the genetic part of things? You were just saying something about genetics.
yes, so we're growing the movement with videos, but we're also growing the movement with reproduction, donating sperm, and potentially we'll be using like genetic modification in the future as well.
Okay, and what is the meaning for this donating sperm? Like, if it's pro-extinction, what is the meaning for that?
Yeah, so humans are the solution, especially activists. And so if you do antinatalism, then essentially the smart people leave the world to the stupid people. So we need more smart people, essentially, more activists, and yeah, the more good people, the better, so that we can actually end suffering faster, basically.
Okay, and when you also mentioned like controlling, working with AI, something like you said, I mean, these are very hard things to achieve because we don't even really have access to like the back of AI, right? So we can only use it as they allow us. So would you mean, are we talking like a really big scale plan where you get people into all the control bases, kind of? Does that make sense?
No, so that's not actually true. You can make AI on your own computers, actually. So it's not limited just to the big companies.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, that's it for now, and I hope I can come back. I mean, I really like to talk about this, so thank you for your time, James.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Yeah, happy for you to come back and ask more questions. Happy for everyone to ask more questions on the Discord or the WhatsApp group. You can join the community through the links on my profile on TikTok, and come and meet the rest of the activists, become an activist. Yeah, people don't realize that, yes, smart people having kids makes more smart people. It is a fact. Hello, how you doing?
Oh, no way. I had a quick question. Like, how are you? Wait. How will you spread the message further on about your like sort of ideology? Sorry, I'm nervous.
So when you say further on, what do you mean? Like, yeah, maybe
Like,
maybe I'll be on television or something. Who knows, right?
Like, I know that you have a merch and a Discord channel, but maybe something on a larger scale, like something else.
Yeah, if you've got any ideas, then I'm all ears.
I don't know. Okay, mate. Thanks.
All right.
Keep it up. Big fan.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, if you have any ideas, send me a message on TikTok. If you know a famous person, or maybe you know somebody that has a channel with 1 million followers or something, maybe you could set up a debate for me. Maybe you can set up an interview, right? Maybe you know a BBC journalist or something. If you can help me grow the movement, help me grow the channel, etc., I'm up for it, right? Contact me and let me know. Okay, the queue is now empty. So if anybody else wants to join, now's your chance. In the meantime, because Sasha reminded me, I'm going to look at some merch. How do I join the Discord server? I joined and I'm stuck. Well, when you join, you should have to submit an application. It'll ask you a few questions. And it's basically the same for the WhatsApp group. When you join, you'll go into a queue and then somebody will contact you and ask you a few questions just to check if you're a violent, crazy person, if you're not, if you're sane. Have you ever been invited onto a podcast? No, actually, believe it or not. I'd do it though, yeah, I would. The thing is, right, my channel's not that big, right? I've now reached 24,000 followers on TikTok, which is great. Except TikTok is a really dodgy app. I've realized actually that you can't trust it. It's very untrustworthy. But yeah, if I did have 100,000 followers on TikTok, I probably would get debates and podcast invitations and stuff. So that's something that we're working towards, and I think that'd be good. Yeah, potentially hitting 100k followers will open up a lot of new avenues for the channel. So that's something we're working towards, right? If you can share the channel, show it to your friends, get them to follow as well, why not, right? Let's get closer to 100k. Can I join just if I enjoy seeing people suffer but still want extinction? I mean, if you're a sadist, then you're kind of in the wrong place. Have you tried posting on Instagram too? Yeah, I mean, I've got a YouTube and I've also got an Instagram, but I didn't really get like any crazy views there, whereas I have on TikTok. So I've stopped posting on Instagram and I don't post on YouTube as much. But yeah, potentially Instagram could be better, right? Maybe. Someone saying, do you know Vegan Fairy? I scrolled into her live yesterday. Yes, I had Vegan Fairy join onto my show and we debated and she got absolutely obliterated, basically. You can go and watch the video. I think it's on Big Red Button's channel, I think, right? Someone's made an edit of it. But yeah, she got destroyed. I've also debated the vegan teacher. She's got like 1 million followers. And she got absolutely annihilated. Like it was brutal. I literally got her saying stuff like, who cares about a little bit of wild animal suffering, right? I got her to really admit that, like, she doesn't act. She's not actually a good person, basically. Well, anyway, in terms of this merch, again, we want to get out some t-shirts and hoodies and stuff for everyone, and it would be cool to wear them on stream. If you want to help me design them, then, maybe get in touch. But I'm going to be coming out with some designs pretty soon. The design I showed you yesterday ultimately wasn't very good. I was saying to people, yeah, no, we're going to go with this, but it's probably not that amazing. I can show you guys what it is at the minute. It's really nothing that special. This is literally a first draft, so, it's going to be the worst, isn't it? But here it is. So there we go. That's a t-shirt. And then I was thinking about doing like a black t-shirt as well. I don't know if we'll be able to keep this logo because it's got black bits on it. But, we could have pro-extinction or abolish suffering with total extinction. So I'll come up with a few ideas and I'll show you guys at some point. And, you can have more than one as well. So we could post several different designs for people. How much will the t-shirts be? Not 100% sure yet. We've got to look at different websites, different pricing, and it could be more expensive depending on which country you live in. But generally speaking, I think something like 25 euros for a t-shirt. I don't know if that's the going rate, so I need to look into it a bit more. The money from the merch sales will exclusively go to the movement, so I won't actually see a penny of it. Unless we have like a, James Idwan t-shirt or something, then I probably won't see any of the money. But it's still the right thing to do. And yeah, it would be cool, right? Imagine we do a big meetup and everyone's got extinctionist merch on. That's going to be wicked. So we do need to get this up and running. Is there a document with the beliefs of the movement? Kind of, yeah. You can go on our website and you can read our principles, our manifesto. We have a lengthy FAQ. So if you go on proextinction.com, you can read loads of stuff about the movement. There's quite a lot to read. And you can find the link to the website on my profile, or you can just, again, search proextinction.com. You can also join our Discord by Googling Abolish Suffering Discord. Someone's saying, hey, James. Hello, Calix. Sasha says, James, I've seen a pro-suffering movement on TikTok. What are your thoughts? A pro-suffering movement. That's interesting. So what's it about, Sasha? Are they saying, let's make everyone suffer more? Or someone's saying, wait, are you all going to delete yourselves? Is that how you're going to do extinction? No. So I can get how that's kind of the first thought. You're kind of assuming the worst, essentially, which is fair enough. But no. So the pro-extinction movement started 4 years ago. I joined 1 year ago. And we advocate for and are doing activism towards the most vast and thorough extinction possible. So, if you unalive yourself, then you haven't really done much to end all suffering, right? Whereas if you do total extinction and you cause total extinction, you carry it out, then you've put an end to all suffering. So the plan is to get activists together from around the world who are going to agree to help carry out total extinction and to the end of all suffering, right? It's the ethical thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Life existing is unethical. It causes extreme harm, extreme suffering. So yeah, we're going to grow the movement, get enough people together, and then we'll start running the world one way or another. We'll take it over with a revolution or however we have to. And yeah, we'll start doing extinction. Simple as that. So it's not about not having kids. It's not about self-harm. It's nothing like that. We actually need more humans. The more humans, the better, so that we can do the best extinction possible. And, think about it, right? If we start getting rid of humans now and starting with human extinction, then that makes animal extinction very difficult, right? And you're risking humanity going extinct before we've done total animal extinction and, the most vast and thorough extinction possible. So human extinction first is rushing it, and that's a bad thing to do. It could take thousands of years to complete animal extinction on Earth and to complete total prevention of life ever coming back on Earth and for potentially the rest of the world as well, beyond Earth. So yeah, we are being for real, absolutely. Is extinction real? Well, yeah, and so is suffering, right? The suffering in the world is extreme, and we need a solution for it, believe it or not, right? Most people are happy to just allow all of the suffering in the world, not care if it gets solved or not, just forget it, right? Ignore it, allow it. No, we shouldn't allow suffering. It's not fair, it's not right. Hello, how you doing?
Good, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I get your point. I've seen your videos. I'm trying to say, that suffering is part of life. And in a way, when you're saying you want extinction, you're playing God, and that's not our role. So
wouldn't you say that, you're trying to play God by saying that, we should continue to force life to exist and suffer terribly?
Suffering is part of life.
But that's you trying to play God, right?
But there's also
that's
so
you
much
trying to
good
play
in the
God,
world.
right? Children are getting abused, and you're saying, I decide this is okay because
That's
it's
not okay.
part of
It's
life.
free will, though, and unfortunately, it happens.
So
You
child
don't think-
abuse is free will. So people are just free to do whatever they want.
Unfortunately,
And you support that?
no.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
interesting, because just 1 minute ago you said, yeah, it's fine, that's just life.
But it doesn't mean I'm okay with it.
Wow, it sounded like you didn't give a flying fuck about it.
Of course I do.
Really? So you support the end of all suffering?
No, not exactly.
Wow, so you don't give a flying fuck. Got it. Cool. Well, thanks for coming on and wasting our time. Okay, if anybody else wants to come up, the queue's now empty, so get your little butts in there. We'll bring you up on the stage, hear you out. All right. Do we have any questions in the chat? No more suffering. Not all types of suffering are inherently bad. Yeah, all suffering is bad. And if you allow suffering to exist, then you're also allowing the worst suffering possible to exist. So, you have to think about that as well. Most people, when they're thinking about suffering, are thinking about it in a really immature way, right? An ignorant, naive way, where they're assuming that the only suffering in the world is beneficial to you. Like, this is some level of cope and self-delusion that is almost beyond comprehension, right? People actually think that the only suffering in the world is always helpful, right? As if terminal cancer is somehow good for you, right? Okay, we've got astrology major in the queue. Let's get him on. Hello.
How's it going? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Nice. I think you make an interesting point. Whether or not I agree with it, I'd have to sort of think about it a little more because it's a new idea to me. But I certainly see the sort of harsh logic in what you're saying, right? The question that I have is, we're in a situation right now where we are sort of early in our understanding of the universe and like what's out there, how everything works. And we don't know if life, like what happened here on Earth, is unusual, right? So maybe we're the only life in the galaxy, maybe there's life on like all these planets out there that we really don't know. What's that noise? Oh, right. And so my question would be like, if we were to discover that life is very common, right? For maybe it's like 1 in 10 planets or something. Do you think we might have a duty to actually stay around and try to extinct life, not just on Earth, but in the galaxy or perhaps even the universe as a whole?
Yeah, that's already part of our mission statement, actually. So even if there is no evidence of life, we should still prevent life ever coming, basically. So it doesn't matter if there's no life now, there could be life tomorrow. And if we're essentially looking to prevent trillions of years of more suffering, then we should not rush the job, right? So we are working towards the most vast and thorough extinction possible, which means that it doesn't matter if that goes beyond Earth. We just have to do as much of the world as possible. So that has to be scientifically determined how much we can actually help, essentially. And so, yeah, most people think of extinction and they think of voluntary human extinction, which is never going to happen because it's voluntary and doesn't actually help animals or anyone else. So it's like the worst type of extinction possible. So most people haven't actually heard of an intelligent way to do extinction and a fair way, which is the most vast and thorough way possible, right? Because humans can do it. We're the only ones that can help. So we should do the best extinction possible. Animals can't help themselves. And so, to prevent trillions of years of suffering and any suffering, yeah, we have to do the most thorough job possible. If it takes us an extra 1,000 years or even an extra 1,000,000 years, then it's the right thing to do, right? We have the best conditions, the least suffering, the most ability with the smallest population, whereas animals have the absolute inverse of all of that, right? They have extreme suffering, terrible conditions, they can't help themselves, they have insanely large numbers of just extreme suffering. So humanity is the solution, and yeah, we should be prepared to help as much as possible and to be as moral and ethical as possible, right? So extinctionists in our movement have universal empathy. So that means that we care about all potential life as well as existing life. So, the moral obligation doesn't stop just because you feel like it. You have to check if there is moral obligation. You have to check if we should care about the universe instead of just Earth. And we have checked and we have looked into it. And actually, the science shows that life will be very common in the universe and that it will be very similar to life on Earth, where it is just animals killing each other, basically. So we have to push science and technology to their limits, even if that takes 1,000,000 years, and to do the most, far-reaching and thorough extinction possible. So not just, the least thorough extinction would be to remove life and just hope it never comes back. So the most thorough would be trying to make sure life never develops again. Because if it does, then potentially, it's going to be on its own, suffering for billions of more years.
Okay, well, that was a very thorough answer, and honestly, I don't have any follow-up questions. You really answered everything I was thinking, sort of as you were talking. So, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. And yeah, check out our website, proextinction.com. You can read more. And let's see who we have next. Hello.
Hi, hello, how are you?
I'm good. Do you have any questions?
Yes, my question is if we're already putting in all of this effort and uniting for this mass extinction, couldn't we just use all that effort and make the world a better place so that we could live without all this suffering?
Yeah, unfortunately, the answer is no, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, there is no way to guarantee safety without extinction. So unfortunately, there is no hypothetical or theoretical, there's no way to even imagine a situation where we can actually guarantee safety for life. And so life shouldn't exist in that infinite danger, right? So, and without total safety, certainty of safety, if you have unknowns, then they present infinite danger. So there's no way to solve that problem, and only extinction can actually solve that problem, basically. So, think about it, right? If we took over the world tomorrow, we could start helping life with extinction immediately, right? We could immediately start preventing suffering for animals and stuff, right? Whereas there's no way that you can say, right, we have a solution, but we're not going to use it. We're going to let them suffer, and we're going to try and go after a solution which doesn't even hypothetically make sense, basically, right? To create safety, with life existing, right? There's actually no hypothetical way to do that. It's theoretically impossible, basically.
But how is it hypothetically possible that death will be the better choice? Because we could always live, but try to make the effort and make these lives as good as we can, but dying, that's...
Well, the thing is that what you have to understand is that effectively we are in hell. So yeah, shutting down hell is the right thing to do, right? Most people and animals, most life here is getting tortured horrifically, and would be better off not being forced to be born and forced to suffer, right? So shutting down hell is the right thing to do. If you try and improve hell instead of shutting it down, then you're basically one of the demons running hell, right? You're saying, no, I don't care if you suffer, I'm just going to focus on my own pleasure.
Okay, thank you. That answers every question I have.
All right, thanks for coming up. So yeah, reducing suffering is an evil thing, basically, right? Because, what's better, ending suffering or reducing suffering? What's better, ending slavery or reducing slavery just a little bit, right? Obviously, you end slavery. You shouldn't be aiming to reduce slavery, right? You should be aiming to get rid of slavery. You shouldn't be aiming to reduce child abuse, right? Because that's saying, well, we don't actually care about ending it. As long as we're putting some effort into reducing it, then who cares? That's good enough. That's not good enough, right? That's a system which only benefits the lucky, selfish ones and condemns the majority of the population to suffer terribly. So this is the dynamic of life itself. It is existing at the extreme expense of others, right? Really extreme, like the most extreme expense possible, right? Life has always been about brutally killing each other in the most horrific ways possible, right? Even with a human, at least you get shot, right? Animals, you're eaten alive. It can take several hours of the most horrific and mentally disturbing experiences possible. So life has always been a bad thing. And it's only humans that came along and said, yeah, look at all this extreme suffering. I like it, right? I'm going to start watching nature documentaries and eating popcorn while watching the suffering, right? Instead of actually helping, I'm just going to watch it and enjoy it. So if we're not basically demons overruling hell and, watching the suffering for entertainment, then I don't know what the fuck we are, basically, right? That essentially we are just animals, right? That's the ultimate answer. Humans are just very, very animalistic. So they've only really just started to pop their head out of being like absolute animals, right? Like literal monkeys. So they're only just a little bit past that. And so they're still savage, they're still selfish, they're still cold and uncaring, because they are effectively not just animals, but predators as well, right? We're expecting animal predators to suddenly be good people. It's asking too much, basically, for most people. All right, let's get the next person on. We've got She, who has the atheist symbol. Hello.
How are you doing, James?
Yeah, I'm good.
So would you agree with me if I said that suffering is an ambiguous term and that we should divide it into destructive and instructive suffering?
No, I don't think there's any point focusing on the instructive suffering because, that's only beneficial to selfish people.
Would you agree that without suffering there would be no life?
Yeah, probably. Well, no, I mean, technically, without suffering, there would still be other types of life which hasn't evolved to suffer yet, but will do eventually. Do you have any more questions?
Could you elaborate?
Yeah, so single-celled organisms, right? Microorganisms, they don't suffer, but they're still life, though, right? Does that answer your question?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming up. All right, we have Ben Brown in the queue. Benjamin Brown. Let's see if he'll come up. And there's also nobody else yet in the queue, so we are low on volunteers. So we need a volunteer from the audience to come up on stage and basically be prepared to defend suffering, if you can. Ben, I'm trying to bring you up. It's loading. We're beaming you up onto the deck of the Enterprise, but we're having a transporter malfunction. Honestly, it's your name is literally there. It's loading, but it's not bringing you up for some reason. So anybody else that wants to debate, have a question or two, get your butt in the queue, slap that button like you'd slap your own mother, and we'll get you on the stage. All right, let's see if there's any more questions in the chat. Ben, what about you?
Hey, so we talked. I talked to you maybe a week ago, and I don't think I got a great answer from you.
Okay.
We got stuck. I'm gonna try and be as cordial as possible. Work with me because I really want to hear, your ideas. Okay.
Let's do it.
So I'm just gonna basically fast forward you through the last conversation we had. I basically proposed the idea like, hey, can we say, okay, I'm just going to say unalive. Okay. So I asked you like, hey, like, wouldn't it be good doing you a favor to like unalive you? Then you said no, because, all of existence isn't unalived if you just unalive me. I was like, yeah, sure, but I'd be doing you personally a favor. And then you say no, because I want to solve this problem. Then I said, oh, well, that's where I wanted to lead you. And I was like, yeah, of course, right?
Well, yeah, it's true. It's true that technically I would be safer as a result, Ben.
Right. So, and then I was like, yeah, sure, yeah. So, like, you have something, you're willing to suffer to accomplish some goal, right?
It's not just some goal, though. It's the only goal worth suffering for. It's the only goal worth suffering for.
Okay, but other people would disagree with you, right?
Yeah, well, we don't care. That's going to happen anyway, right? If we care about people agreeing with us, then I might as well convert to Islam or something, right?
What do you mean by that?
If I want a majority, I might as well just become a piece of shit, basically, if I want everyone to agree with me.
That's what Muslims are?
No, I'm saying I might as well just start appealing to majority opinions, right? You're literally appealing to stupidity, Ben. You're saying, let's not think for ourselves, let's just go with whatever the majority thinks.
No. I'm appealing to subjectivity, not majority.
It sounds like stupidity, Ben.
No, it's subjectivity.
You're saying, well, what if people disagree, though? Like, who cares?
No, I think I've displayed that, hey, you have a subjective, you believe that it's the greatest. There's no proof. You don't have a proof of that. You don't have a...
So do we need proof that child abuse is bad, Ben?
Do you think I think child abuse isn't bad?
Well, do you need proof, though?
No.
Or can we just agree on it?
We can agree on it.
Wow. So that's how things work. You can just agree on them, right? So
No,
we
so
can
but the
agree that
thing is,
extinction is the right thing to do.
yeah, but the word abuse is morally loaded. It assumes that you're misusing the child. People
So
will
you do
disagree.
think
Wait, let me just finish.
you
Let
do
me just
think child
finish.
abuse is
Let me
good.
just
You think
finish.
child abuse is good for you?
No, I'm just 1 second, right? So the word abuse,
So
right?
you're okay. So Ben is one of these people that thinks child abuse is good for you, and that if
Do you
you
want to have a?
disagree, you have to prove child abuse is bad.
No, just listen to me for like 5 seconds.
Ben, we're not going to platform supporting child abuse. Okay, we're just going to move on to somebody else. He was literally like, well, actually, there's sometimes the child abuse is kind of good. Shut up, Ben. All right, just stop. Okay, it's never good. Hello, how you doing?
Hey James,
Yeah,
seeing you honestly makes my day a little better. I just want, this is kind of off topic, but I wanted to tell you if you're interested in health, maybe you have any health problems, to look into the Primal Diet by Arjunus Wonder Planets. Have you heard of that?
No.
Well,
But I'm not
basically
really
it
here for
consists
diet
of.
advice. I appreciate that. We'd prefer to stay on topic.
Oh, okay. I have nothing to say then.
All right. Shameless plug, was it? Was he advertising his own goods and services? Perhaps, perhaps not. But either way, if the diet had something to do with extinction, maybe we could have heard him out. But it seemed completely irrelevant. Let's see. Do we have anybody else in the queue? Not right now. There's currently nobody. So how do you plan to euthanize millions of animals? It's not that hard, right? We already control most of the planet. Right? If you've ever been in an airplane and looked out the window, right, you can see that like the entirety of every country is completely dominated by human control, right? Whereas there used to be vast forests covering the entire country, it's now farmland, fields, picketed and squared and controlled tightly, right? We control the entire planet's surface, the entire planet, really, right? So the idea that, how are we going to euthanize a few million animals? We control hundreds of billions of animals, right? We control animals into the hundreds of billions with extremely large infrastructure, right? I mean, look, we can literally like destroy islands and stuff. Like we can absolutely control the planet and do a bit of animal euthanasia. It's not going to be that hard, right? And then, imagine if we put the next 1,000 years into developing technology to make euthanasia for animals easier. It's going to be really easy. Look, and it's not about, lying them down in the clinic and saying, goodbye now, and here's the injection. No, it's obviously you can't do that for every last insect and whatnot, right? So it's probably going to be like a gas. That's kind of my speculation. Take it with a grain of salt, right? It could be anything. It could be, I don't know, like a gas seems more likely to be the way to do it, but it could be anything. But I think that, a gas isn't, we think in World War II, World War I, right? Gas was being used to, do massive effect. So obviously we can do animal extinction pretty easily. James, please leave the bees alone. The bees suffer as well. In fact, I actually put out a video like several months ago on my TikTok specifically about bees and their suffering. Really interesting video, actually. I just reposted it from someone else. But it's actually interesting how much bees do suffer and how hostile their environment actually is to them. What do you think about when you see a puppy? I think, damn, it's a shame that it's going to suffer from cancer or from something else. It would be better off not existing. To clarify, the gas would be more peaceful than chemical weapons like gas weapons. Yeah, it would be, we would be aiming to, the gas isn't going to burn your skin off. Ideally, it would just send you to sleep, essentially, right? One way to potentially do that would be to essentially remove the oxygen from the air. So there was actually an example of this happening on an island where there was, at the bottom of the volcano on this island, there was a village with hundreds of villagers, right? And one day, the volcano released like an insane amount of carbon dioxide. And basically everyone, it rolled down the volcano, the gas went down the volcano and into the village. and everyone just fell asleep and died, right? There was no pain whatsoever. Essentially, what it did was to remove the oxygen from the air. So that's a lot better than being eaten alive or having your skin burned off, whatever it is, right? Euthanasia is not a difficult thing. It's very easy to make it painless, and instead of just sending you to sleep, maybe it could be like morphine or something, right? Maybe you could have a nice experience on the way out, right? Who knows? Okay, moving on. We've got a couple people in the queue. Let's bring them up. How would you unalive all the ocean life? We don't know, but we have to find a way. Simple as that. Hello, how you doing?
Hi. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So I want to debate you about if it's really better for people if we kill them if they suffer less. I wanna go into the construct and kind of mathematically, one life equals infinite suffer, right?
Say again.
Because one life reproduces itself like infinitely. So one life equals an infinite number of suffering.
Yeah.
Would you agree to that?
I mean, indefinite, but they can suffer themselves, and they can also make others suffer as well. So there's just no point having all of this suffering. It's better to just have no suffering.
Okay, so when you try to kill every little life that is there, but we fail with one life that isn't unalived,
yeah.
We have an infinite number of suffering in the world, plus the 99.999% of suffering we caused by killing the current 99.999%.
But that doesn't actually cause suffering. That doesn't cause suffering. So extinction, again, euthanasia is painless. So it provides safety from a bad life and from a worse death, right? So your natural death is going to be way worse, like 100%, right? So it doesn't cause more suffering. And even if life does come back, it's still better to try, firstly, and it still reduces suffering as well.
Let's say we start with my mother. So she doesn't suffer, but you won't be able to extinct me the same time as my mother. So I will suffer because I kind of lose my mother.
But we don't care about that suffering, right? We care more about extreme suffering. We care about preventing billions of years of more suffering. So we're not going to allow billions of years of suffering just because you might get a bit emotional. Got it? So you're being very self-centered. You're being very selfish and saying, end billions of years of animal cruelty and child abuse. What if I don't like it?
Okay, but wouldn't it be better to let our human selves evolve to a point we can stop life from ever coming back again?
Well, yeah, we need more humans to do that, right? So we are working towards the best extinction possible. The biggest, the most thorough, the most preventative. And so even if it takes 1 million years to do that, it's still the right thing to do to prevent billions of years of suffering, for potentially, infinite planets as well, right?
Okay, so your plan is really long-term centered, not just for our planet, but for the whole evolving theory of the universe, right?
Sorry, say again. I was just laughing at Cora in the chat.
Okay, so your plan isn't just for this planet, so it is for the whole evolving theory of the universe and beyond.
Yeah, the solution for us is just to do the most vast and thorough extinction possible, right? So we might not be able to help the whole universe, but we should help as much as we can.
Okay, but that's kind of you said people that suicide themselves are kind of selfish. If we scale that up, isn't it selfish if we just unalive that thing we can do in our possibilities and ignore everything else?
What do you mean? I'm not understanding.
Like, there's one person that unalives himself. He is selfish because he could have unalived the whole planet. That's something you said in the video, right?
Well, we should not end your own suffering. We should end all suffering, right?
Okay, but all is kind of relative here. So before you said to the extinct, we are possible to end it. We can't end the whole universe, but we can end
Well, we might be
the
able to.
planet.
No, I never said we can't end the whole universe.
Okay,
Right?
so
Look, we don't know. You would be insanely arrogant to make claims about that, right? So we have to leave it to the science.
okay, so you first want to get to the point of knowing.
Look, you're trying to just predict and say, "Oh, what if it comes back? What if this? What if that?" Just leave it to the science, right? We're not going to leave it to your random whatever thought comes into your head. Okay, we're going to leave it to the science.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah. But yeah, everyone has this problem, right? It's not just him, so don't think I'm picking on you. You know, if you're learning about extinction and you're watching the debates and stuff, you're going to see this non-stop, right? Every single day. It's, what's the method? How are we going to do this? How are you going to do the whole universe? I don't fucking know, okay? But we should work towards doing the best we can and leave it to the science to make those decisions, right? I can't tell you, yes, we can do the whole universe. No, we can't. We can do the galaxy. No, we can't. You can't either, right? Only science can make those decisions. So that's what we should do. Okay, we've got Heinrich Liebhardt in the chat, in the queue. Let's try and get him up. Not looking good. So anybody else wants to come up? Now's your chance. And in the meantime, I am still trying to design some t-shirts in the background. Oh, Cora's saying stuff in the chat. Do we have a mother or father in the chat? And would you be able to make your own child safe with extinction? Is probably going to be the next question. But just because they say no doesn't mean it's right. James, it's good to admit that we won't be able to exterminate the entire universe. Well, again, you're just trying to make claims about science that you can't possibly claim, right? So it's arrogant to say, yes, we can do the universe. No, we can't. Leave it to the science, okay? Look, modern science only started very recently. It is incredibly arrogant and ignorant to think that we've reached the limits already, right? So leave it to science, right? Okay, more questions do we have? Okay, we've got Cuckoo in the queue. Let's try and get them up. Bringing them up now. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right, so I have a couple of questions for you. So one is, when you go forward with the plan, how do you make sure the rest of the people that are going to be affected with this are going to be in line with this idea?
We don't know yet, right? So it's a good question, but we have to work on solving that problem closer to the time, right? So the first step is to gather activists into the movement, grow the movement until we have enough people to take over the world and start doing extinction. And yeah, we can worry about that stuff later, basically, right? It could happen hundreds of years later, could happen thousands of years from now. And so, you know, the society, the technology, the dynamics of the world will be completely different 10 years from now, right? Let alone 100 years from now. And so trying to make plans for the future is simply not a good way to spend our time.
So how about the legal issues? Do you think you
Yeah.
can legally lead this kind of movement?
So at the moment, it is legal because there's no imminent or soon threat, right? So that actually makes it legal, at least in the United Kingdom. But could it become illegal in the future if the movement gets really big and we're starting to think about a revolution? Potentially, right? But there's lots of solutions to that, right? We could take over one country, we could have an island, we could be secretive. There's lots of ways to do it. And yeah, you're right. You know, these are big questions. These are challenging questions, difficult questions. But ultimately, there's just no point thinking about it right now because, you know, what's the alternative? What are we going to do? Just stop doing activism, become secretive? Well, it just doesn't seem like that would be a good idea right now, right? There's no legal threat against me. The police have don't care about what I'm doing, right? It's not against the law. So it doesn't really make sense to go into hiding, right? So if our activists around the world start getting arrested and stuff, then we'd probably start thinking about it at that point.
What are the works that needs to be done when it comes to activism, you know? That is my big question. So like, what are the things that needs to be considered when you do the activism work?
Well, yeah, the main type of activism is making videos, basically. So that way you can reach thousands of people from all over the world on the internet. So yeah, it's very simple. The main things to consider when doing activism is to educate yourself on the movement first and always have a call to action, right? So don't just say, life is bad, right? That's just the problem. You need the solution as well, which is, so join the pro-extinction movement and help us, you know, end all life and all suffering, not just talk about it, but actually provide safety, right? Help
I
them.
mean, it sounds very like insensitive to say to end all lives, you know? Because most people doesn't agree with this kind of concept.
Yeah,
So
but
when
you
you
see,
just generalized the
yeah,
concept and say like let's end all life, like including everyone on earth, I'm
yeah,
assuming that you're saying that.
yeah.
So like that is very insensitive, you know? Like people are going to hesitate to join this
Actually,
kind of
it's not
movement.
insensitive. It's very sensitive, right? So we're actually thinking about the danger that they're not considering themselves.
Some people, like according to some people, they really live like love life, you know? People kill another, like even
Yeah,
communities
and
to
those
stay
same
alive.
people, and some of those people are abusing children. So should we allow them just because they say they love life?
But not all of them though. Not
So
everyone who loves to live.
how many is too many?
We don't know. It's too hard to
There's just
say.
there's no amount of child abuse that will make you care, basically, right? Oh well, at least one child isn't being abused, so why should we care if all of the rest are? That's your mentality.
No, what I'm saying is,
That's what you just said, right? Well,
no.
Some
What
of them
I'm
are being
saying here
abused, so
is,
fuck them.
no. That's not what I'm saying. By the way,
Look,
like
you obviously don't understand what you're saying, right? When we say, yeah, children are, you know, being tortured in lives of pure hell, we should help them. When you say, yeah, but some of them aren't, it's like saying, okay, well, fuck them then, right? So that's your mentality, right? Oh, look, there's all of this animal torture, children are suffering terribly. Your answer is, who gives a fuck? Some of them aren't suffering, right? That's ridiculous. So that just shows how irresponsible these people are, right? How little they care, how unethical they are, how immoral they are, how apathetic they are, right? You know, their response to, look at all the extreme cruelty going on here, shouldn't we help them, is, who gives a fuck? At least one other person is happy, so that's all that matters, right? No, that's a disgusting mentality, right? And lots of people have the same exact mentality. It's not just her. This is a very common mentality, right? Lots of people have said the exact same thing, right? It doesn't matter how much suffering there is, as long as at least one person is happy. That's just, you know, I mean, that's the logical conclusion of their position, if you think about it, right? Most people realize that, yeah, some people would be better off not being born, and that, yeah, if 100% of the population was going through that, okay, yeah, extinction would make sense. But that's the only way they will ever agree to extinction, right? Is if it affects them, right? Because if it's 100% of the population, then it definitely includes them, and that's the only time they will ever care, basically. So if 99% of the population is being tortured, that crazy person, that woman, she would say, who gives a fuck? You know, 1% is fine. So why should we care? So again, this is a mentality that just allows for infinite cruelty, infinite torture. And, you know, when you point out the cruelty and the torture, they just say, but what about the happy ones? It's like saying, we should end slavery, right? Having slaves is causing lots of suffering to the slaves. She would have said, well, what about all the money I make, right? You know, as long as there's some money coming, some good coming from it, then who gives a fuck, basically, right? So yeah, it's a mentality of evil and justifying suffering, allowing suffering, and normalizing the sort of ignoring of suffering, right? So that's actually a big thing that most humans try to do, and that they deeply, agree with. The idea that we should normalize ignoring suffering and allowing suffering. But obviously, this feeds into their selfishness, their laziness, their evil mentality, and basically just justifies, being evil, right? If you normalize not caring about others, if you normalize exploiting animals, you normalize depression, you normalize cruelty, then suddenly there's not like a societal pressure on you. There's no peer pressure. Oh, stop torturing animals, mate. What's wrong with you? Right? If there's no one there to say that, or if it's only 1% of the population, then it's a lot easier for you to be an evil bastard, basically, right? And to say, who cares about the suffering? Like the last woman, right? The cuckoo, you know? Oh, but some of them don't suffer. Oh, well, so what? Just fuck them if they suffer, basically. And that's what people say all the time. But not everyone suffers. But do you not see how that mentality is literally saying, unless everyone suffers, then fuck everyone, they can go to hell, basically, right? So, if you're going to say, but not everyone suffers terribly, then, are you really saying that you will only care if everyone suffers terribly, right? Is that the only way to make you care, basically? So if 99% of people are suffering, you don't care, which again is happening, right? So this isn't even a hypothetical. This is already the reality, right? 99% of life on this planet is getting tortured to death as children. They're being eaten alive, as babies, essentially. So it's already that 99% of the population is being tortured, and less than 1% of the population on the planet is, overseeing hell, watching all of the suffering and eating popcorn, right? And saying, no, don't end the suffering. So it's just pure evil, right? You can absolutely bring it back every single time to slavery, right? Oh, what? End slavery? But we make so much money, though. Oh, what? End suffering? I have so much fun, though. It's really no different, right? It is the exact same thing. And you could do another one. Okay, let's do another one. Become an activist, but I'm too selfish for that. I don't care about anyone else. Be a good person, but that means I can't just watch Netflix. So no, Netflix is more important than being a good person. So this is the sad state of humanity. These aren't exaggerations. These are horrifically true of 99% of the population. Literally. Hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I agree with the prompt and what you're saying. Most people don't care about things that don't affect them directly. I guess my main question would be, why is the focus on extinction? And from my point of view, I'm learning a lot about socialism. And why would the focus not be to a political type of route to getting to a place where everyone has the resources, the food and housing to sustain life, at least a better life?
Well, you see, it's about having a zero tolerance policy on suffering. So, there's no way to have zero suffering without extinction. So unless you're willing to say, we should have life exist and, have loads of happy people, and if some children get, abused to death, then it's worth it. So we would say it's not worth it, right? Most people would say, it's worth it. If 49% of the population is being tortured, who cares about them? It's still worth it. So there's really no amount of suffering that will make people say it's not worth it, right? Until it's them being tortured, right? So there's no ethical position here. There's no moral position or leg to stand on. It's really just excuses to try and be immoral. So when people are coming out with all of these reasons against extinction, it's like a naughty child coming up with lies about how he didn't do the naughty thing, basically.
Yeah, I understand your argument. Could that not also be directed to improving criminal justice system or the legal system, or are you
Well,
still it's the same policy like zero
yeah,
tolerance?
I mean, so we find extreme suffering unacceptable, right? So for most people, they find the idea of life not existing or ceasing to exist, they find that unacceptable, whereas they find extreme suffering acceptable. So we have the opposite
Yeah.
mentality, right? That really is the binary. We have just the opposite of that. So most people think extreme cruelty is acceptable. We say it's not acceptable, and that life not existing is acceptable.
Yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate it. That's all I had.
Yeah. So it's about being against suffering, right? So most people aren't actually completely against suffering, right? They see suffering as an inconvenience, right? It's like they're on the road to a nice life, and the existence of suffering is just something to get out of my way, suffering. I'm on my way to a nice life, right? But that's not a responsible thing. And yeah, you shouldn't work to reduce suffering, knowing for a fact that ending suffering is impossible without extinction. So essentially, that's reducing suffering is always going to be unethical, and it is essentially the cover for being unethical, right? The excuse. So here we are presenting all of the extreme suffering in the world, and people are like, well, instead of ending it, can't we just pretend to reduce it a little bit? Like just say that we're doing something about it, right? Just say that we're reducing it, and can't we just tick that box then? Basically, say, oh, there's suffering in the world, yeah, but we're doing something about it. Don't worry. No, that's really not good enough, right? And so it's an unethical perspective and mentality of, care about safety of others, I guess, if I have to, right? But no, it should be, we should be focused on providing safety and the end of all suffering, right? We should focus on ending slavery, not reducing it. We should focus on ending suffering, not reducing it. We should focus on providing total safety instead of partial safety, right? So reducing suffering can never end suffering, right? It's physically impossible to guarantee safety for life. So only extinction can guarantee no suffering, right? That's the only fair thing to do. So it's not even theoretically possible to guarantee zero suffering for life while it still lives, right? So there's no way to actually say we've solved suffering without extinction. It's not even hypothetically possible to do it. And even if you could, right, it would probably be infinitely harder than extinction and would allow lots of suffering in the meantime. So it wouldn't be ethical. That would still be a dynamic of we can allow suffering and cruelty so that we can benefit. So, most people, again, their priority is life existing and pleasure and good times. And the idea of turning all of that off with extinction is like, oh, what a waste. But the thing is, even if that's the right thing to do, they don't care. That's the problem, right? So, most life is being tortured to death right now. Over 99% of life born onto the planet will be eaten alive as a baby as animals in nature. You wouldn't want to be forced to be eaten alive, right? You wouldn't want your mother or your girlfriend, your wife, your child to be forced to be eaten alive as a child, right? It's not okay. And that is what's happening to over 99% of life. So you really have to be completely living in a fantasy to think that we aren't surrounded by an ocean of extreme suffering and torture, which desperately and urgently needs help. So people don't want to see the reality. They would rather stay in the fantasy thinking that there is no extreme suffering, there's no urgency to do anything about it, there's no moral obligation, everything's fine, animals are being tortured for food, but it's fine. It's just complete delusion, fantasy, right? It's a complete fantasy. And people actually believe the fantasy. They believe the lies, that everything is being taken care of. Donald Trump is going to look after everyone. You know, he really cares about animal suffering and all that stuff, I'm sure. Right? So if you think that the world is okay, you're living in a fantasy. Hello, how you doing?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just wanna ask, what's the point of ending suffering if in the end there will be no people that would benefit from it? It just sounds like you came with idea without no plan,
So you
because you're
think that
always saying that.
so you think some people getting to have happiness is more important than people having safety?
No, that's the point, because you're just saying people are suffering and you have no arguments and no plan
So I'm just
how
saying
your
that people are
extinction
suffering.
movement
So
would.
no one's actually suffering then. I'm just making it up.
There is a lot of people that's suffering. I'm not saying there is not, but as I said, it should be more political change, you know, because
How does that help animals?
you have no argument uh, about your movement. I just
Yeah, it sounds like
don't
you have no
believe
idea
it.
what you're talking about, okay? It sounds like you have no argument at all.
I just don't believe in your movement because I don't understand
Well,
it.
guess what? No logic detected, right? And for everyone saying she's right, you obviously don't have a brain either, okay? There was zero logic there. It's just, your argument is wrong. Well, what kind of argument is that? You're telling me my argument's wrong when that's your argument? Get out of here. Okay, moving on. We have Paula joining us next. Paula Guitar. Hello, how you doing?
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, so I just have a couple questions. Are you a vegan?
No.
No. Okay, isn't that contributing to the suffering?
No, so
You
actually
wanna
going
end
vegan...
I hear you wanting to end suffering, but you seem to be contributing to it. And you also mentioned how most people are stupid. So why are you going on a platform where the commoners and most of the stupid people are? And
Where else am I going to go?
well, because you need to go where the people are smarter. Because
Where?
people
Tell
who
me.
are stupid, they're all
Tell
gonna
me. Okay,
they're
tell
all
me
gonna
where.
do stupid things like go out
Where?
and start
Give me
killing
an
people
example
and
then.
creating more.
Yeah, I get the point. Just tell me where am I going to find smart people?
Well, this is where you need to be resourceful and do that instead of just creating more.
So getting
it's
like
not very
millions of
like-
views on TikTok, waste of time, you think?
Well, yeah, because it's mostly the stupid people who are just going to create more. They're like, oh yeah, let's all go. We're just all going to start, you know. And you're not very ethical yourself. You said yourself, you're not vegan. You're already creating more.
Veganism causes more suffering, though.
Pardon?
Veganism actually causes more suffering.
Well, everything causes suffering. You can't get around.
Oh my
it.
God! Look! She doesn't even care. Look, that's actually the funniest vegan response I've ever had in my life. Okay, so I'm here prepared to give like a lengthy argument on how veganism causes more suffering, and she just goes, "Yeah, but so what if it does?" So she's just proving that vegans don't think anything through. You literally tell her it causes even more suffering, and she says, "Yeah, who cares?" So they're just doing it to look good. They're doing it to virtue signal, and she's just proved my point perfectly, right? I said veganism causes more suffering. She goes, "Yeah, so what though?" Like, what? So veganism causes more suffering to wild animals. The number of actually, let me look it up. So the number of wild animals that die and suffer every year on Earth is 1 followed by 20 zeros. So I want to actually look up how to pronounce that number because it's just such an insane number. How to pronounce the number which has which is a 1 followed by 20 zeros. Let's see. This is how many wild animals suffer at the minute. So that is 100 quintillion. So 100 quintillion wild animals suffer terribly and die every year in nature. So that's 100 quintillion. the number of wild farmed animals, well, actually not just farmed animals, but including all animals, including wild animals that we eat each year, including fishing, humanity eats 4 trillion animals a year. 4 trillion. So that's a much, much smaller number than 100 quintillion, right? It's an insane number. And so you have to realize as well that animal agriculture takes up an insane amount of space on the planet, right? So again, most of basically most of the planet's surface is animal agriculture, and most of that is crops which are being grown to feed the cows and the chickens and stuff. So most of it's basically like 50% of the planet's surface is actually agriculture, and the majority of that is growing crops to feed animals like cows. And so if you got rid of animal agriculture and all of the crops that are being used to feed the animals, then essentially 50% of the planet would be reforested. It would go back to being forest. And so it is about 50% that is being of the planet which is being used for animal agriculture, like an insane number basically. And you can look up all of the facts and graphics and charts and sources, citations, and all of the information on this on our website, proextinction.com. And if you go to the full FAQ, frequently asked questions page, scroll down to 33 on why veganism causes more suffering. So, yeah, basically, you've got 100 quintillion wild animals. And if we get rid of animal agriculture and essentially reforest all of that land, like half of the planet basically, then the 100 quintillion wild animals that we've got now could potentially double basically, right? So, compare that to 4 trillion animals, many of which are fish. And so they don't actually suffer that much when they're caught. And it's kind of the same for a lot of animals that are hunted, where the death doesn't actually cause that much suffering. It's their life that has more of the suffering, right? Entire life of suffering is worse than the death, right? And yeah, farmed animals, they do have terrible conditions and they do suffer terribly. But essentially, there's like 100 billion farmed animals, right? And that is taking up like 50% of the planet, essentially, compared to 100 quintillion wild animals. So animal agriculture essentially reduces the number of animals on the planet by an insane number, right? Not by like 1 to 1 or 1 to 10. It's like 1 to a billion or something. So yeah, animal agriculture is obviously evil, but it just so happens to reduce suffering at the minute, right? So we're not saying animal agriculture is good. We're just saying that it just so happens to be the least causing of suffering. So the problem is that vegans don't consider nature to be bad. They consider it to be automatically good, even if 99% of animals born in nature get eaten alive as babies, which is obviously a bad thing. Vegans have tricked themselves into thinking that being eaten alive as a baby is actually an enjoyable experience. So they're completely insane, basically, along with the rest of humanity, right? Most humans think nature is a good thing, that animals are having a great time in nature, that it's not a bloodbath, it's not an arena of death and misery, whereas it obviously is, right? They have no medicine, no shelter, no safety, no food. I mean, farmed animals do, by the way, right? So again, they suffer terribly, but they're not being eaten alive en masse, right? They're just kind of sat there getting food and medicine and shelter from the rain and euthanasia. Don't get me wrong, it's horrible, right? It's absolutely horrific. There's nothing, it's not like they're having a good life, but they are having better lives than many of the wild animals, and in much, much fewer numbers. Okay, we've got Paula again in the queue. Let's see. Let's have a look.
Hey, thanks for letting me back on. I just want to say I'm not a vegan, by the way, and I've had a lot of suffering in my life. I grew up in a freaking war zone, alcoholism, violence,
Yeah, we
rape.
don't want to make it personal, right? Only narcissists
just
make it
saying,
about
this
their
is
own
coming
suffering.
from somebody who's had a lot of suffering in their life, you know,
Well, you
suicide.
shouldn't make it personal. You shouldn't make it personal. Just bring it back to the
I'm just
logic.
saying, coming from someone who's like, you don't want to make it personal because you probably haven't suffered much in your life.
Oh, well, now
And-
you're making it personal again. You know what? That's it. You're out of here. Paula, you're making it about yourself. You're making it about me. You know, you had the perfect opportunity to come up and say, okay, extinction, that's interesting. So how does it work in this sense? And, you know, what would you do about this? Instead, you're like, I've had a terrible life, and I bet you haven't. How about you fuck off, okay? Right? Take your selfish personality somewhere else, right? We're here to discuss the logic, the ethics, right? And to not make it personal. Look, I could be sat here talking all day about my terrible life and all of the suffering I've had. But, you know, it's not about me, right? Only selfish people would do that, right? Purely only selfish people, right? We have an entire world of extreme suffering with worse things than you will ever experience. And what, I should just sit here and talk about my life? You know, that's no. All right. Okay, I'm going to get going soon. So if anyone else wants to come up, now's your last chance. Do. Anyone else for the queue? Anybody else? Yeah, Polar is a trauma barter, basically, right? Trying to make it a competition on who's suffered more. Look, when I say that wild animals suffer more than farmed animals, it does make me feel guilty, and it should, because essentially discriminating between the suffering of two life forms is kind of a gross thing to do. It is a wrong thing to do, largely. But ultimately, yeah, it does make sense to point out to vegans that farmed animals do suffer less than wild animals. And again, it's gross to have to try and make that barter to say who's suffering more, who's suffering less. But in terms of efficiently helping the world, you kind of do have to do that, right? Humans suffer the least, wild animals suffer the most. Hello, how you doing?
Hello, James. I think this is more like a criticism towards you, but I think you should let the people on, like that vegan who debated you. She's obviously wrong. She doesn't really think outside a small box, but like you should still let them on and fully debate them till the end, because it just ends up with people thinking the vegan has won, and we just in the end we just lose like people who would agree with us, you know?
Well, I mean, look, if anyone's really going to agree with her and needs more convincing, then I would say that there is no hope for that person.
Yeah, well, that's true, but I still feel like you're kicking them off too early. I mean, just in general, for more normal people who want to hear the debate, it just seems like you're backing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's more about, just trying to get more intelligent thoughts out there for people, right? Look, maybe you're right, okay? But ultimately, I don't know, it just seems like we're platforming garbage, basically, right?
Yeah. I mean, I see what you mean.
I would rather give a speech, basically, instead of just, having a terrible debate with a stupid person.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I was just telling you anyways, keep it up. At least you're doing something good for the movement.
Thank you. Look, I'll try and, keep people on more. And, but the thing is that, you're saying that, people will be more interested. Okay, we can try it. But ultimately, I don't know, I just feel like it's going to be a frustrating, terrible conversation, right? These people end up, making it personal, right? That's one of the reasons why I kicked her. She was just trying to, insult me, make assumptions about my life. That's, a very gross thing to do, essentially. Okay, we've got Clint. We've got Kizza. Hello.
Hey James, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. I wanted to ask you if you can invite Beecher or accept his request. He's here in the comments and he's like saying that you are wrong, that the whole philosophy is wrong. I would like to hear you debating if you want. If you don't want, it's okay also. So.
All right. Well, I'm looking in the chat to try and invite him, but I'm not seeing.
He says that you don't accept him. That's what he says.
Okay. All right. There we go. Let's see if I can find a way to invite him in. Yeah, that's funny. I'm not seeing a way to accept him. It's possible that his account is new. You know, if he doesn't have any followers, TikTok often doesn't let you go into live streams. So it could be something like that, like an account restriction.
Okay. I will tell him to give you a request and maybe.
Oh wait, no, he's in the queue now. He's finally just joined the queue. Okay, let's
Right,
get
so
him.
I'm let
There
you
you
debate.
go. There you go. You got it. Why'd you block me?
Block you? I didn't.
Yeah, you blocked me on my K2 account after I destroyed you about 3 times. Why is that?
I don't know. Can't remember. I go through so many crazy people that, you know, it kind of all blends
Right.
into.
Oh, yeah. Crazy. Yeah, you block crazy people typically when they cook you and you remove them?
Sometimes
maybe
I
3
block them
times?
if you know, if they're spamming, if they're advocating for violence and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's funny. I didn't do any of that. So what could have been the reason?
I don't know. Maybe.
You don't know?
Well,
Well,
again, I
you
don't know
do
who you
know
are,
that your
so
argument is an assumption, right?
you're asking me
You're
to
just
remember you
assuming
when I
that
don't.
suffering is bad, right? You know that?
Say again?
You just know that your argument is an assumption. You're just assuming that suffering is the only bad thing with moral value and that it
we don't.
overwrites all else.
So do you think child abuse is bad?
Right. So how does that respond to what I just said?
Because my
So,
point
so
is
does,
that
does answering a question with a question, does that move the
my
conversation
point
along,
is that
James?
you're
James, does it move the
so
conversation
open-minded
along?
that your brain fell out, right?
So you
And
can't
you
answer my
don't.
question, James? I don't understand. I asked you a question. Can you do it? No? You're going to run again? Yeah?
All right.
You're going to
All
run
right. Well, I was
again?
trying to respond to it, but you refused to respond
Go
to the
ahead. I'll
reply.
mute. Go ahead.
Well, you've already decided you don't want to.
Go ahead. Answer, James. I'm waiting. James, answer.
You've already decided you don't want to go with
So
my
you can't
response.
answer. Okay. So
I
we've
did
clarified
answer.
that you cannot answer the question. All right. So we'll move on.
I was.
Do you
I
have
was
any
answering.
justification or is your argument just purely based off assumption? Don't do that with your eyebrows. It's weird and creepy. Please.
So you're confused about whether or not suffering and child abuse is bad, basically.
No.
You're
That's not what we
unsure.
said.
You're
What did
unsure
I say,
whether or not
James?
it's definitely bad, right?
James, what was the question? Do you remember?
It was something about it was like it's all based on feelings, basically, right?
Oh, I used the word feelings. I don't believe I did that. Okay, so I'll say it one more time for you.
Yeah.
Your argument, are you going to let me do it? Oh, you're going to keep doing the eyebrow thing. It's really weird, bro. Your argument is based off an assumption. I'm looking to see if you can actually justify this thing. Go ahead. Justify that suffering is the only thing with moral value. Go.
The only thing with moral value. Well,
That's
I
what
never
your
said
argument
that.
assumes, yes.
No, I've never said that.
No, you don't have to say that. It's what your argument assumes. That's what I said. Come on, keep up, James. Let's track.
But you want me to argue for a position which I don't believe in.
Is your argument not the pro-extinction movement? I'm confused. This is your argument,
No,
bro.
so the pro-extinction
You had the prompt before.
argument
Actually, I'll read the
is not the
prompt. I'll
same as
read
what
the
you
prompt.
just said
Forcefully
before, right?
causing.
So this is why you got banned. This is why you got banned,
total
right? For
extinction.
trolling.
Okay, yeah.
This is why you got banned for trolling.
I'm trolling by
Yeah, you're
restating your
saying
argument
one
and
thing
asking you to
and then
justify it. I'm confused.
I don't actually know the word for that type of trolling, but yeah,
Forcefully
you're
causing
essentially
total
gaslight.
extinction
You're
of all
gaslighting.
life is the only right thing to do because it ends all suffering. You're assuming that suffering outweighs all other moral feelings. So why is that? Can you explain?
Yeah,
It's
I
an
mean, look,
assumption that you
if
made.
you don't have a zero tolerance policy on suffering, then you allow infinite suffering, right? So you either find extreme suffering unacceptable, or you're selfish like you and find it to be acceptable.
Again, does not answer the question. The question was, why does suffering outweigh everything else? I'm not asking if you find it acceptable or not. I'm asking, why does this thing outweigh all else, and why does it now give you the right to overwrite everyone else's, and by everyone else, billions of people's feelings and what they find, what's the word I'm looking for here, important?
Yeah, it's about making sure that all life is safe, essentially.
How is all life safe if life is no more?
All life actually benefits from safety, essentially.
Again,
right?
how does something benefit if it's not there to reap the benefits, right? You're saying all life benefits off this, but life would now no longer exist. How does that make sense,
euthanasia?
James?
Would you ban euthanasia?
Would I ban euthanasia?
Yeah.
Like, in some
Because
countries?
by your logic, nothing can ever benefit from non-existence, right?
Yeah, you
So
can't. You
would ban
literally cannot.
euthanasia,
Once it's done, you cannot benefit from it
So
anymore.
would you
You're done.
ban
You cease to
euthanasia?
exist.
Would you ban euthanasia?
I wouldn't ban it or have any. I don't have any views
But
on
it's
it.
doing something useless,
I don't.
right?
Again, I don't
It
think
doesn't
me
provide any
personally.
benefit, right?
I like how you ask me questions and then as I'm responding, you immediately interrupt me.
So would you ban euthanasia because it doesn't provide any benefit?
Yeah. Me
would.
banning it or not banning it would have nothing to do with
So is
what
that
I
a
said.
yes?
But I've
Are you
already given my
confirming yes?
answer. James, I've already given you my answer.
Well, I didn't hear it. Can you repeat it?
Oh, you didn't hear it? Yeah, I would. I would ban it. But
So
that's
you would
just like
ban-
I have own personal views on that.
Yeah, so he's clearly a crazy person, right? And look, you don't have to argue with a crazy person, right? Just like with yesterday when they said, yeah, babies in the womb get to read a book on suicide, and the day they're born, they know about suicide, they know how to do it, and they can do it, right? You don't need to argue with a person saying stupid things like that, right? You just don't. In fact, if you actually try and debate with someone like that and try and argue with them, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? You're showing everyone that they're worth your time when they're not, right? Now, we gave him a chance. We gave him some time. We tried to have a conversation, but he got aggressive very quickly. He started gaslighting, right? He said one thing, I start responding to it. He says a different thing, and as if that's what he asked when he didn't. So, it's like absolute trolling. And yeah, there's no serious argument or logic to deal with there. If there were, I'd be happy to tear into it. I'll tell you what, though. The one interesting thing, one way he did get me, right? He wanted, basically proof for why extinction is the right thing to do, why suffering is unacceptable and all this. And look, it can be done. Okay, I could answer his question if I looked into it deep enough, but it's a pointless question because essentially, to ask the question of, can you prove that suffering is terrible and unacceptable? Can you prove it's actually a bad thing? That's not an honest question, right? You would only ask that if you're against trying to help those who suffer, right? So it's just looking for a way to allow, excuse, and justify suffering, right? And so you can take that argument. Can you prove suffering is bad? And you can just say, oh, what? So you need child abuse? You need proof that child abuse is bad, basically. And he said yes, right? He said yes. So, you don't need to debate those people. You don't need to argue with them. Anybody that says, yes, I need proof child abuse is bad, like, there's something very wrong with them. And we could see that there was something very wrong with that guy, right? So, look, if someone says, maybe child abuse is good for you, you need to provide proof before I'll agree to support banning child abuse, right? Those types of people, there's something very, very wrong with them. And there's just no point arguing with them.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. I wanted to challenge your premises actually on the entire extinction thing. Okay. Why would you support such a thing? That's my question.
To provide safety for everyone.
How do you provide safety to everyone by unaliving everyone? Exactly.
Yeah, well, if we're effectively in hell, so shutting down hell provides safety from further suffering.
Everyone are in hell?
Well, the world does cause extreme suffering to most that live in it, right? So it's basically hell. It's effectively
most. I think majority, at least in modern countries like in Europe, in the US, in Canada, countries that are actually like not third world. I think they don't live in a suffering.
Really, that's interesting. So if we take a poll,
That's my take.
Most 70% of the world will say they're happy. Yeah, but that doesn't include all of the disabled people. It doesn't include all of the people that have died and suffered terribly. It doesn't include babies and children that have suffered and died. So, the dead don't tell tales, right? So when we say, oh, everyone's happy though, right? It's just the selfish survivors are happy, right? But the dead can't get to vote in that. They can't get to answer that,
Also,
right? Animals also can't, right?
Let's take. So let's say there is a poll in Norway or in Finland, which are considered one of the most happiest countries in the world, and they make the poll, And it says that 93% because it's not in the 70s, it's more in the 90s there. Let's say it says 95% of the population there is happy. You are saying it doesn't include the disabled there? That's what you say?
Well, a lot of disabled people will not be able to, answer that question, right? They won't have the capacity.
Why wouldn't they have the capacity exactly?
Well, this may be news to you, and I'm sorry to break this terrible, sad news to you, but some disabled people can't actually speak.
Okay.
I'm sorry to let you know such a terrible thing about the world that is clearly
So
new
how
to
much
you.
of the total percentage of the disabled people can't exactly speak? What's the percentage?
Does it matter?
Actually, it does, because when you are saying total extinction, which is extinction to the entire human race, it certainly does.
So you think that, like, you're one of these people that says that as long as it's not the majority suffering, then fuck them.
No, I'm saying it's not the majority suffering. So why do you want total
So
extinction
fuck
to
them,
the entire
basically.
human race?
So
It's not
if
fuck
the
them. I think we should help them.
Yeah,
to
you're
get the
saying
exact- to the exact
if it's
point.
not the majority,
I
then
think we should help them. Listen, I think we should help them to reach the point that Europe have got to, that Canada have got to, that US got to, that South African countries also got to, South American countries also
right.
got to.
So
I think we should help the world to get
for
to that
you,
point.
extreme
I think the
suffering
world should
is
get
acceptable.
I think the world should evolve to a certain point. Obviously,
What
don't you
point?
think that?
What point?
To a point where people will be happy to live in the world. Obviously, don't you think it's possible?
It's not possible to work towards total safety. So only
Not total
extinction.
safety, but majority safety. You can do that.
Yeah, but
At
that's
least
not
90%,
ethical, though.
95%. Of course, it's possible.
Yeah, that's a selfish thing, though. It's not ethical. It's not fair.
How is it selfish to help people?
No,
it's not
because
selfish to
you're
help
saying
people.
we should still have extreme cruelty, right? For fun.
It's selfish to say you need total extinction to the entire human race when the majority of people in the world are happy. That's selfish.
So it's only the majority. So if it was the majority that was unhappy, what would you think then?
I think we are not in a point where the majority are unhappy.
Yeah, but I'm asking you a question. So you're saying we should only care about the majority, right? So if the majority was unhappy, would you then support extinction?
If the majority would be unhappy in 90%, 95%, yes, absolutely.
No. So a majority, it works by over 50%. Maybe you
But
didn't.
we have-
I'm
we
sorry
have
to
90 to
I'm sorry to
95%.
educate you on that as well. Yeah.
No
so,
problem.
Clearly, we're going to have to do a lot of
I know what
education.
majority means.
Clearly, we're going to have to
We
do a lot
know-
of education. I'm just going to mute you for a second. We're going to have to do a lot of education in this debate, right? A lot of education. So a majority is when it's more than 50%.
Okay. Currently, the situation isn't 50% and above. It's more like you said, 70%
So I'm
or
asking
above
you.
that are happy.
So look, let's make this very simple. Okay. So do you
Yes,
think?
if it would be 50% or less, yes, I support that. Okay. It's
So
not the-
so if
it's not the
49% of the population is being tortured by the 51%, then it's okay.
It's not the case though. You made that, and what if?
And
then you said,
why are
this
you
is the
refusing
case.
to answer that? Why are you dodging that question?
I am dodging that question. I
You
gave you
didn't-
the
yeah,
answer.
instead of answering it, you decided
I gave
not
you the
to.
answer. I said
No,
yes,
no.
but
So
it's
instead
not.
of
It's not
answering-
what's happening.
Instead of answering, you dodged the question. Okay.
I never dodged the question. I answered your first question, and then you.
Okay, well, you did dodge the question.
And then you
So
didn't
let me ask
answer
it
my
again.
question, so that's the thing.
Let me ask the question again, then. Okay.
Okay.
So if 51% of the population is torturing 49%, it's okay.
It's not okay. I think we
but
should
you
reach
said
I
it's
told you
only-
already. I
you-
think we
you-
should reach to the point
Yeah,
where
yeah. So
majority
let me
of the
finish my
population is
point. Let me
happy.
finish my point. So you said we should only care if it's the majority, right? So, but by that logic, right? Surely,
I never
if
said that.
49% is being tortured, then we shouldn't care.
I never say that we shouldn't care. I said we should help to reach
You
to a
said
certain
it's
point
not the
where 90
majority.
to 95%
You said it's not.
of the world
You
is happy.
said it's not the majority suffering. So why did you say that?
I literally say we could do better as a
So
society.
you're dodging
as
the
a
question
human
again.
race.
You're dodging the question again.
We are not. I'm literally not dodging the question. You don't
Yeah,
let
so
me
we're
answer the
talking
question.
about how the majority matters here, right? So you're dodging the question.
I'm not dodging your question. I'm literally directly trying to answer your question, and you don't let me do that. So I think we can do better as a society. Why don't you think that?
All right, you're not answering the question. He's finished. He's done. We gave him like literally 20 chances there. Like, I'm not even joking, right? I must have asked the question like 20 times. He said, well, it's not the majority that's suffering, which has happened before today, right? Lots of guests have fallen into the same trap. So he said, it's not the majority suffering though. So, you know, the obvious question then is, oh, so if it is the majority, then it is a problem, right? And he's like, well, let's change subject. So he didn't want to talk about that, basically. And that's why he got kicked, right? He was being dishonest. So I said, right? So if you only care about the majority, because again, if you're going to say it's not the majority, so you only care if it's the majority suffering, right? So does that mean that we can do whatever we want to the minority, right? Yes, basically, right? It means that if 51% is torturing the 49%, then it's okay. So I asked him about that, and instead of saying, okay, yeah, you're right, it's not okay just because it's the majority, obviously if 51% of the population is torturing 49%, that's not okay just because it's the majority. So instead of answering like a normal person and saying that, he basically just dodged the question and tried to distract onto changing subject, right? So, you know, he had he had 20 chances to answer that question, and he refused time and time and time again, right? He just couldn't answer it because he knows that, yeah, appealing to the majority like he did and like that other woman did earlier, where they say, oh, it's not the majority though. It's like saying, okay, so you are saying that the majority have the right to just torture the minority at all times. That as long as it's not the majority, who cares, right? If 49% of children are being raped, who cares? It's not the majority. Hey, why you care? It's not the majority, right? So if it's 51% of children being abused, now it's like, oh my God, it's the majority. We have to help. Guess what? That's not going to make them care either, right? The whole it's not the majority thing is bullshit, right? That's not actually their real position. That's not their real argument. They're not actually saying, oh, if it is 51%, then it's a problem. Because that's not even their real position either. Even though that's what they're implying when they say, oh, it's not the majority, who cares, right? That implies that, oh, well, so if it is the majority, we should care. Well, no, they still won't care, right? So when they're saying it's not the majority, I mean, obviously that's a very evil thing to say, right? That we should only care about life being tortured if it's the majority. Like, what an evil thing to say, right? But it's also a dishonest thing to say because that's not what they actually care about, right? They don't actually think it matters if it's the majority or not, right? Then they're not really, what the implication of what they're saying is, we should only care if it's the majority. That really is important. It matters. It's important that it has to be the majority. And there's really good reason for that, right? That's what it sounds like they're saying, but it's complete bullshit, right? There is no good reason. There's no thinking behind it. It's actually just the first thing that popped into their head with no logic, no backing, no basis, no reason, nothing. It was just the first thing that popped into their head. Oh, it's not the majority though. Even though saying it's not the majority, though, is completely illogical, completely irrational, a completely insane thing to say, right? When you're talking about extreme suffering, to brush it off as, it's not the majority, though, right? So that just shows the level of thought going into these conversations, right? Where as soon as you question them on what they've said about it not being the majority, they know that that's it. You've got them on the run, right? They can't defend what they've said, right? They absolutely cannot defend what they've said. So that is why I chased him down on it, right? That's why I made a big deal out of it. I didn't let him dodge the question. I didn't let him change subject. That's why I kicked him. And now we're doing the debrief because of his intense levels of dishonesty, right? So I'm unwrapping his lies and dishonesty and deceit, right? And trying to make it clear for you guys, instead of allowing him to continue lying, gaslighting, and deceiving people, right? And confusing people. So that's why I kick people out, okay? So again, he didn't actually care about it being the majority or not. That was just a bullshit deceit, right? A dishonest debate tactic, right? To try and confuse people. And so as soon as I pulled him up on it, he's like, no, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's change subject. And I'm like, no, I will kick you unless you answer the question. And he's like, I've already answered it. I'm like, no, you haven't. Anyway, so that's basically what I wanted to explain, is that they can't defend their positions. They know they can't. And they know that by the simple fact that you're pulling them up on what they've said, their entire argument is finished. And so they can't answer that question at any cost. They have to dodge that question and change subject. Hello, Aaron. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm fine. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, I somehow support this topic, but I think I have a question that I really ask myself most of the time. Have you ever really find a reason why do we actually exist?
Nature.
We just think it's nature.
Yeah.
I think the other guy doesn't see that most of humans suffer, and the only way we can solve this by extinction is because this suffering will never end. After you solve a problem, another problem comes in, whether it's a disease, financial, relationship.
It's not even just that, right? You've got lives of pure hell, right? You've got babies suffering and dying, being tortured and being killed at a very early age. So just even on that basis, right, life shouldn't exist, right? So it might be difficult to have a good personal life, but we're not being eaten alive, we're not being raped to death as children. So we have to think about all of the extreme dangers in the world, and that makes it much more obvious and easier to explain that it's not safe for life to exist, right? If you're saying, yeah, I got a stubbed toe the other day, let's have total extinction, it doesn't really make for a very good argument. But if you say, people are trapped in lives of extreme hell for their entire life, children are being, raped to death, animals are being tortured to death by psychopaths and eaten alive by other animals, just extreme, crazy levels of suffering. It makes it a bit easier to explain, right? That's why life is really bad.
Yeah, I strongly agree with this, but the problem we have with this topic is that most people will never understand or will never understand this logic.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know that. You can't predict the future, right? So we just have to do our best, because we can't say what will happen or what won't.
But for me, if I have something, let's say a button to press, and somehow we all humans are going to extinct, I will definitely press that button.
But you should be part of the solution, not the problem, right? So to say I'll only help if it's easy, that's being part of the problem. We should work towards the solution, even if it's a challenge.
I know this is a bit, hard. We have wars, so finding a solution even in future, maybe even if we become more civilized, I think problems will never end.
Well, Aaron, I would say you should look. It's very easy to just give up and find reasons to quit, find reasons to be pessimistic, and say, "Oh, it'll never work," and fuck it, it's never going to happen, right? We should never bother trying to do the right thing because it's too hard. Look, that is being part of the problem, right? Everyone is constantly looking for excuses, any excuse, right? Any excuse, right? Universe-wide extinction is impossible, or morality is subjective, whatever, right? It's always just an excuse, right? We should try and do the right thing, not look for excuses, okay? And to say, I won't lift a finger, it's wrong.
Hello?
Hello.
Do you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Well, good day, but you're saying, right, that you believe that extinction ends all suffering. If I stutter or like pause a lot, excuse me, I'm not a native English speaker, so I'm gonna stumble when speaking.
That's okay.
But I think that that extinction shouldn't be like the solution. I feel that euthanasia should be a like yeah.
Yeah, the problem with euthanasia is it's not good enough, right? You still have to get tortured to then need it, right? So we shouldn't torture people and then help them. We should make sure they don't get tortured at all. And look, euthanasia cannot help babies, children that get tortured, right? They can't say, "Mama, I want euthanasia now, please." It's not going to happen, right? So euthanasia is not an option.
Excuse me, my mom came into the room and she was talking, but if you probably heard me talking in another language, it's that she came in. But I feel that we should try and help everybody. I know that you brought the point up that what if the majority of the people were suffering, that if extinction should be the solution. I don't think that even if the majority were to be suffering, that should be the solution. Because in my opinion and what I've seen in my experience, I do believe that people can get better.
So do
I
you
don't.
think
It's like
suffering
if you're
outweighs? So do you think happiness outweighs suffering then?
excuse me. Can you repeat that because I couldn't hear you? Sorry.
So do you think happiness is more important than suffering?
No, but the same way could be said about suffering, right? I don't
Really?
get why if
You think
people are
safety is?
suffering, we should. I
Well,
say
look.
that I believe that
Would
if
you want to be
yeah,
forced into? Would you want to live the worst life ever lived?
of course not.
But you're happy for others to.
No, I think that for those people, right, depending on their situation, if it's for example, like you said before, child's getting raped and stuff, that's a very unfortunate and very sad
So the
thing
dungeon
for them
should
to
have.
happen.
So the dungeon should have a euthanasia kit.
No. I feel that for them, we should try and get them help. I feel like
Yeah. So when they're in a
people that
dungeon,
aren't.
so when they're in a dungeon, what kind of help can we offer them?
What do you mean? What do you mean dungeon?
What do you? So what language do you speak again? I'll translate it for you.
No, I know what dungeon is, but what do you
Oh,
mean
right.
dungeon? I know what dungeon means, but
So what's your question?
dungeon that if they're in an actual dungeon, or do you mean metaphorically, in a place that they can't get help and they can't get better? Is that
Well,
what you mean
either
by dungeon?
either way.
If they're in a dungeon, actual, the literal meaning of a dungeon, then that's
There are
that's
children in dungeons
unfortunately.
right now.
But yeah, that is true. Don't you think? Okay,
All right,
you're
you're
proposing.
clearly showing that you don't actually think about the world in a responsible way, right? It's all just rainbows and sunshine for you, and anyone suffering just gets ignored because you just
No,
pretend they don't
It,
exist, basically.
I know. I'm saying that our duty as people that aren't suffering is to be able to try and reach out and help those that are. You know,
So
if
how
let's say
how does that help wild animals?
wild animals, we can't really intervene in that.
All right, Sigma. Yeah, wild animals. We can't intervene in that. We've only dominated the entire surface of the planet. Reduced the population of fish in the oceans by half, but have an effect on animals on this planet? What are you, crazy? We can't do that. Wow. Look, the guy is clearly 11 years old or something. He's probably dodged every day of school in his life, never opened a book. He's obviously religious, you can see in the chat. So, we're dealing with completely insane people. That's the problem. Completely insane people who have effectively zero education and zero awareness of the world, but think they know everything, right? So they know absolutely nothing and act like they know everything. And it's amazing. Okay, let's get this Arab-looking communist up. Hello.
Hey, sorry, I was available a couple minutes ago, not anymore. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's actually convenient for us. Merhaba, كيفك حبيبي؟
كيفك؟
تمام، وانت؟
بخير.
Oh, له.
We can speak in English so people can understand.
Okay, go on then.
So I am just new to this thing. I found your channel today, but I have two questions. If you are planning to end, if you think we should end all humanity because of the suffering, does that mean we should also end all of life because wild animals also suffer?
Yeah.
Okay. My second question is, how do you think we should end all? How do you think we should do extinction? Kill all humans?
So for everything that is alive, we have to put it to sleep, basically. Yeah. But we have to do animals first, right? So we can't risk human extinction until after animals, because they can't help themselves.
Yeah. Okay, shukran.
Okay, shukran. All right. Yeah, I do speak a tiny bit of Arabic, a little bit of Turkish, and then I'm fluent in Spanish and Portuguese, a little bit of Japanese. Hello, how you doing?
Yo, host, it's me, David.
Yeah, what's good?
Host, it's me, David. How are you?
Yeah, good. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. How can you about your movement? How are you gonna pull it off?
By getting more people into the movement.
But the problem is that how can you possibly pull it off if the governments of the world control everything? Like, you will have to go against governments and people who are in power to be able to pull the movement because people are not gonna agree with you. Actually, how can you pull it off if the people consider you a criminal? Will you be considered a revolutionary or some criminal that will be like a global threat to the world? How can you possibly do this movement?
I mean, possibly, yeah. But look, it's going to be difficult, but we still have to do it anyway. And potentially, we might all have to move to a country where it's has better free speech or something like that. So,
but governments are going to consider you a threat to the world. I mean, there's not going to be a secure place for you. How are you going to be possibly able to pull it off? Like, really?
Well, look, we don't actually have to worry about this for quite a long time, right? It's going to be probably hundreds of years before the movement is big enough to do a revolution, maybe thousands, right? So this isn't an immediate problem, and the more people we get in the movement, the more capable we will be of solving that problem. So we have to try and solve that problem. You're right, yeah, the governments will probably try and stop us, and we have to find a way to solve that problem.
Okay, so how? What is the solution? Like, I mean, can you even achieve it in your lifetime? Like, you have a limited lifetime. What happens if you can be able to do it in your lifespan? Like, people only live like 90 years old, 100 years old. How do you possibly solve the problem in your lifetime?
Well, we get new activists, right? So I get old, but we've got young activists. It goes on. Got it?
Are you planning to have thousands of followers to millions, like to do a worldwide platform?
Yeah.
But don't you have to study a lot to like logistics, algorithms, or YouTube? Like, if you want to do successful, don't you think that you have to study, for example, via YouTube channel, like grow numbers in social media?
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to, improve my videos and stuff. I've got like 10 million views on TikTok. It's not too bad.
But what do you do with the people who disagree with you, like the ones who don't agree with your worldview? What do you do with them?
We just ignore them.
I mean, if you want to make the movement, but those people resist against you, what do you do with them?
Well, in the future, yeah, what will we do with them? We put them to sleep.
Okay, glad to have talked with you, host. Have a good day.
All right, thank you. Have a good day as well. And yeah, we understand it's going to be difficult, right? We have a lot of opposition, a lot of challenges, but what's the alternative? We give up on ending suffering. We allow suffering to just continue on forever. Lawrence in the chat is saying this is sick and depraved, and yet, not Lawrence, sorry, Lawyer Shark. Someone's saying it's sick and depraved. Life is sick and depraved, right? If you support life existing, you support child abuse, animal abuse, the worst cruelty possible. It's happening to innocent toddlers and babies and children. So, you should support total extinction and total prevention of suffering, right? No more extreme suffering, no more bad lives, no more child abuse, no more animal abuse. But if you support life continuing and you're not doing any activism to end all suffering, then obviously you're benefiting from not doing anything to end all suffering, which means that you're benefiting from child abuse, right? And it's not just about that. Most people actively support it happening, right? Most people say, I support people's right to have children, no matter who they are, even if they're a complete psychopath, right? And just let them abuse the children, basically. That's unfortunately what people are happy with, right? So there's an easy way to prove this as well. So the red button, right? I don't often talk about the red button, but the red button is a thought experiment where essentially if you press the button, it does total extinction. It does complete extinction, right? The universe it never exists ever again. And if you push that button, everything's gone, including you. It will never come back, and it's gone all instantly. The whole world is just gone. So would you press that button? It guarantees no suffering ever again with a 100% guarantee, right? This is the perfect red button. So most people would say, no, we shouldn't push that button, right? Life is more important. People watching Netflix is more important than, saving innocent animals and people from lives of pure hell. So for most people, extreme suffering is acceptable. And as we've demonstrated many times on the show, it's not just acceptable, it's just that they simply don't care about it no matter how bad it is. That's what's actually happening. So it's very easy to do that thought experiment. Most people would not support extinction even if 99% of the population was being tortured, which is currently happening right now, because 99% of the population on the planet is wild animals being eaten alive as babies. So you can absolutely say, 99% of the population in hell, would you support extinction? They'll still say no, right? So they just don't care about suffering. They don't care about being good people. And when we're debating these people, we're often giving them the benefit of the doubt in an intellectual sense, right? We're assuming that they're going to make rational decisions, that they understand that animals do suffer, basic concepts like that. But they're completely bereft of all of these basic things. So it's like you're arguing against a fake version of a human almost, right? Like a tenth of a human that pretends to be a full human. That's kind of what it's like arguing against pro-lifers. Anyway, I'm going to end it there for today, guys. So thanks for joining us. Continue the conversation on Discord. You can find the link on my profile on TikTok. You can read the website. The link is on the profile on TikTok. So click on that. Click on the link on my bio, and you can find the link to the Discord, the website. You can join the Discord, continue the conversation, meet me and the other activists on Discord. I'll be there all evening. You can come and ask questions. You can come and debate. You can come and become an activist, right? If you want to start making videos to grow the movement, to end all suffering, join the Discord and we can help you get set up. And I'll see you all tomorrow. And give us a follow, like my recent videos, whatever, all that good stuff. And we'll see you all tomorrow.